Hello everybody and welcome back for a little more Cold Waters single missions. This is single mission number 2. It's called In the Presence of Wolves and you're sailing a Permit class submarine, which as you can see here, they were originally the Threshers, but when the Thresher was lost with all hands in 1963, they renamed it after the second boat, which was the Permit. So we're out hunting down a pack of enemy submarines, as you can see on the screen. A little bit of a hint there, so... Check the status report from the XO. 4 torpedoes. We've got 3 Mosses. I decided not to load a Moss yet because I've got a pretty quiet submarine.
Contact bearing 3.
Rig ship for ultra quiet.
And should be able to do pretty well.
Our new contact bearing 340. Designated Sierra 2.
So went to ultra quiet this time.
350 feet. Dive high.
Took her up shallow rather, to get above the layer so I could get a good read on the enemy submarines.
Bearing 014, designated Sierra.
And
turns for 0 knots, maneuvering eye.
okay, so I took it up above the thermal layer so I could get a good read on the enemy submarines and see if they were...
Dive at 350 feet. Dive high.
See if they were up above the layer or below it, and then adjust from there. I wanted to be relatively close to the thermal layer, but above it if I need to be, so I can fire a Moss if I must.
Sonar Sierra 2 is classified as submerged submarine.
And then dive below it if I need to dodge any enemy counter torpedo fire. So you can see the first escorting submarine is going to be a Romeo. And as we go zooming through the ship's databanks here, that sort of looks close, but as that's a surface ship, I was like, no, it must be just off, so we'll keep searching because we want to find a submarine. That looks pretty close, but it's not quite right. That third line isn't quite lined up. That's not bad right there. We'll call that a Charlie.
Is classified as submerged submarine.
And there's the third enemy sub. What do we got here? Second Romeo, maybe? Foxtrot? Looks like a Foxtrot to me.
Con sonar Sierra 3 is classified as submerged submarine.
So, we've got a 95% solution on this first Romeo already. What to do? What to do? Well, I guess we let him have it.
Aye, sir. Con sonar Sierra 3 is classified as submerged submarine.
And Sierra 3 turns out is actually a Romeo as well. Okay, that's fine. I like it when the
fire control. Unable to fire.
I like it when the
Shoot 2-3. Aye, sir.
sonar room does a better classification and keeps working on enemy ships and sonar contacts and will finesse down the classification for you. That's nice. So I've got 2 torpedoes off, and apparently they didn't detect me because they haven't counterfired yet, which is interesting. So I'm going to try and bring this torpedo down behind the Romeo.
Con sonar launch transient
And
from Sierra 2.
okay, now they've detected
Con
me, so
sonar launch transient from Sierra 2.
they fired a pair of torpedoes at me. So I probably will not be able to keep control of my torpedo as long as it's going to take to get it to come down the baffles of contact Sierra 2. So we'll steer it back towards them, and then we'll probably get ready to dive deep again and get ready to make some speed as we need it.
Con sonar noisemaker bearing 320. Make turns for 10 knots, maneuvering eye.
So this way, when I have to probably break the wire on tube 1, I'll probably lose it on tube 3 as well, but if I need to maneuver, at least
Con sonar noisemaker
torpedo number 1 should go active quickly enough. And looks like we're probably going to have to make some evasive maneuvers here real quickly.
Con, fire control, weapon countermeasure homing.
However, we've got a real good shot on the enemy submarine, I believe, on the Romeo there, on Sierra 2, so...
Con, fire control, weapon acquired.
There we go. The enemy torpedoes have gone active. One's going shallow, and one is staying a little bit lower. but it's still going to detect me before
Make
too
turns
long here.
for 15 knots. Maneuvering
You
aye.
see the enemy sub in the background there? Torpedoes moving in on him.
Maneuvering. Making turns for 15
Don't think he's going to get away
knots.
from that shot. And unfortunately, before I could get a nice pretty
sonar. Noisemaker bearing.
nice pretty
3,
view on
1,
the sub
1.
taking the hit and getting sunk, somebody else fires 2 torpedoes at me, and it took my camera away from it, and by the time I got the camera back to looking at this Romeo there, we couldn't see him get hit, which was too bad, because totally could have seen him. Now I'm below and inside the 2 torpedoes that Sierra 2 had fired, and I was confident that I was probably actually going to just be able to keep right on going right underneath them. One started going active past me, and the other went active up above me, so I seemed like I was out of their cone.
0 feet, dive on.
Out of their search cone, so I just kept on going and waited to hear that it acquired me, but since they're still in their snake search pattern, I was pretty sure I had successfully not been detected by those 2 torpedoes, and we'll go after our friend the Charlie, which is our main target here.
Con, torpedo room, tube 1 ready.
Con sonar. Noisemaker bearing 3, 5, 8.
So I had sped up a little bit and lost the wire. Well, actually, it wasn't really so much that I'd sped up, but I had turned a little bit too much nose to the wire, and that broke the wire for the torpedo off after Romeo 3 up north. And the Charlie had fired a pair of torpedoes and set them to go active almost immediately, so I'm kind of having to worry about those eventually. But for right now, I'm waiting to see what happens with my torpedo that's chasing the Northern Romeo, as there's a noisemaker up there, so I know my torpedo's a pretty good shot on him. You can actually see one of the torpedoes coming from the Charlie, so I know I'm going to have to go into evasive mode
Torpedo room, tube 4 ready.
at some point because of the Charlie's torpedoes, but I'm going to let them get a little bit closer so that when I do make my moves...
Con sonar. Noisemaker bearing 3, 5, 3.
I'm a little closer. You can hear a helicopter going overhead right now, but it doesn't end up being a real factor in this battle.
Make depth 7, 0 feet, dive high.
I sent a new torpedo up kind of halfway between where the Charlie and the Romeo's last positions were, so that hopefully I can either keep my torpedo wire and steer towards whichever one of those I need to send it after. If the Romeo evades my torpedo, which he didn't, then I could send it after him, or I could change it to the Charlie. Alright, torpedo has come in from probably the helicopter up above.
Make turns for 2.
So time to dodge.
Knots. Maneuvering aye.
Gonna end up losing the wire
Make depth 8,
on that
0
torpedo, but
feet,
I've got
dive
enough
high.
other torpedoes ready. It's not that big of a deal, really. I've got tube 4 reloading with a Moss in case one of these torpedoes actually locks onto me. At the moment, they're missing me, though the torpedo that's up in front of me is likely to acquire me as I'm a little bit far enough back that his
Make depth 9, 0
his search
feet,
cone
dive
might pick
high.
me up. And there's one coming in behind me now, so one of the ones from behind has picked me up. So in a moment, once it gets a little bit closer,
Con, torpedo room, tube 4 ready.
drop the noisemaker, send him into countermeasure homing, pull up hard, and pull into his search turn,
Passing 800
which
feet.
hopefully brings me inside the northeast torpedo as well. He turns up towards me and immediately go full down planes, which drops me below his move. It was pretty close,
Formed.
but I did form a knuckle, which he went after, or at least distracted away from,
Passing 800 feet.
and then went immediately full down again.
Passing 900 feet.
Made another knuckle and dropped a noisemaker, and then leveled off and just kept on hauling.
Knuckle formed.
I did a lot better with the knuckles here in this mission. I was a knuckle forming fool.
Make turns for 15 knots. Maneuvering aye.
Do have a torpedo coming after me, though. I pulled up basically right in front of it, which is okay. I've got plenty of speed going.
Passing 800 feet.
I'm not so terribly worried about cavitating, although if I do...
Making turns for. Make turns for. 2.
There's one
8
torpedo out
knots.
maneuvered and exploded.
Maneuvering aye.
That torpedo's coming up underneath me, but I was able to get over the top of it and then continue downwards again. Punch off another noisemaker, and I'm pretty much safe from his torpedo now.
Passing
There's only the
800
one
feet.
left, so it's a lot easier to dodge a single torpedo.
Passing 900 feet. Con, knuckle formed.
Do have the
Passing
torpedo coming in
1,000
after
feet.
us again. We're going down pretty deep here. And there it goes.
Passing 1,100 feet.
It's detonated. We're getting kind of deep, so back up we go now that there are no more torpedoes in the area that are hostile.
Con,
And we'll
knuckle
just make
formed.
sure we don't pull up in front of our own torpedo. There is a circle searching torpedo up there to the northwest, which is most likely from a helicopter. So we'll just keep an eye on that.
Passing 1,200 feet.
Con, maneuvering. Making turns for. 2. 8 knots.
Con, helm, steady course.
Passing 1,300 feet. Make depth 800 feet. Dive high.
So my ballast had been set a little deep, but I ran it back up to
Making
800
turns
feet
for
because I was
5
plenty deep
knots.
enough.
Maneuvering aye.
And I wanted to make sure I didn't lose sight of the negative buoyancy on the boat. So we sank the 2 Romeo escorts without too much real trouble, and now it's just time to move in on the Charlie. I did hear a faint launch transient in the background that the sonar guys didn't
Sonar
actually talk
regained
about.
Contact on Sierra 1.
And there we go. We've picked up the Charlie. There's a couple of torpedoes in reciprocal search patterns there, which is actually kind of funny.
Con sonar.
Con, maneuvering. Making turns for.
And it turns
5
out that he's actually a
knots.
whiskey submarine, as we got close enough to get a better read on him. And that's fine. Whiskey, Charlie, whatever. All classified as
Con
targets.
left 2, 2, 3, 6, helm aye.
So while we work up a nice good firing solution on him, we'll skip ahead a wee bit here and get ready to fire. We've got a nice healthy solution worked up on the whiskey
Reset
after
for
some
ultra-quiet.
time compression. We've also got some sonobuoys way out to the
Sonar. Launch
northwest.
transient from
Not
Sierra
entirely
1.
sure what they were doing, and when the whiskey fires
Con
his...
sonar. Launch transient
pair of
from
shots there.
Sierra 1.
Shoot tube 4.
It turns out they're
Aye, sir.
chasing the
Con
moss
sonar.
that I had fired.
Sierra 1 is cavitating.
So that was pretty awesome. Now, I don't know what all the sonobuoys and the helicopter dipping sonar and the helicopter torpedo are way up to the
800 feet.
northwest.
Dive high.
But the whiskey definitely got fooled by my moss that I'd fired off up in front of him there. Which I'd already had a pretty good firing solution on, but as soon as he fired off the fired off his torpedoes after the moss, we got to 95% and punched off straight at him. These boys are in a lot of trouble right now.
Con sonar. Noisemaker bearing 304.
Diesel electric boats are not going to outrun these torpedoes. Not very easily.
Con sonar. Noisemaker bearing 313.
Con, fire control, weapon acquired.
Captain Alexandrov is a bit concerned now. As he well should be. That torpedo's awfully close to him. And as we steer it around manually to get right in his baffles,
Con, fire control, weapon acquired.
he's in a lot of trouble.
Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 1, last bearing 319. Contact breaking up.
And that's 3 boats on the bottom.
Con, dive at 800 feet. Dive by. Make depth 4-5 feet. Dive. Rig ship for ultra quiet.
There were no further enemies, so I did actually take some damage later in the battle from fooling around too long to clear the area. But I will spare you guys seeing that, and we'll just skip ahead to the ending. So finally, I was able to get far enough away from enemy contact with a couple of noisemakers fired off and a couple of Mosses heading off towards where they were consistently searching, that I was able to finally clear and not have any weapons or anything nearby and actually exit the battle. There we go. So Whiskey and a pair of Romeos put on the bottom. Slight damage to the ship, but it was all repaired. And that's it. The USS Gato sailed away to fight again. Thank you all for checking this out. We'll see you next time for more Cold Waters, and thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Take care, everyone.